is also a practice that discriminates against small businesses because they are much more likely to have to contract for other kinds of services that are subject to the gross receipts tax. Pyramiding also discriminates against local businesses when they compete with businesses from other states. Although most other states impose some sort of sales tax on business purchases, only 2 other states impose as much pyramiding as New Mexico. It is unfortunate that we are always at the bottom of the lists where we should be at the top, and we are always at the top of those lists where we should be at the bottom. We have to start fighting for a friendlier business environment because you have my word, New Mexico is open for business and we're going to bring in business to New Mexico. And John Barella, sitting over here, is an outstanding economic development cabinet secretary, and we have to make sure that he gets confirmed at this next session because he travels this entire state wanting to find out and know, where do you need, how can we make things easier for you, where do we get rid of that red tape to make sure your door is open or stay open. He has done a fabulous job, and we need to make sure that we keep people who understand business in the Office of Economic Development. Taxing investments reduces the incentive businesses have to invest in New Mexico, which reduces the productivity of our workforce and reduces their long-term earning potential. And that Ernst & Young study I mentioned earlier, it found that our practice of pyramiding makes New Mexico's tax code one of the most burdensome in the country. My proposal will expand deductions for construction services when the final project is subject to tax. This will provide substantial relief to an industry that has still come down by more than 1/3 from peak revenue levels. Recent reports show that New Mexico led the country in job loss in the construction sector. The leader in job loss. We have to turn that around. These are our small businesses, our local companies that employ New Mexicans in the construction sector. This industry is vital to the state's economy, and we should do whatever we can to help put it and its workers back on their feet. During the special session, I had proposed $212 million to be invested in capital outlay. $212 million. The legislature decided to only pass $86 million. We had the capacity to put $212 million and the people who won those construction jobs back to work. We have to make sure that we hold our legislators accountable. You have some in this room who voted every single time in support of you. You have to congratulate them, encourage them to keep fighting for you. But then there are those who do not. There are those who do not think that we should be fighting for these tax reforms. $55 million. $97 million to make sure the workforce is ready to take those jobs. And that our children don't have to leave our state to get good paying jobs. What we're also offering as part of our tax reform is to make sure that the men and women who come back from battle, the men and women who return from Iraq, Afghanistan, aren't standing in the unemployment line. That instead, you as the employer, if you give them a job, we'll give you a tax credit. Because the heroes of America do not deserve to be standing in the unemployment line. They deserve it. Proposing that if those men and women are retiring from the armed forces and choose to come to New Mexico and make this their home, that the state not tax 25% of their federal military retirement, so that we start to encourage our heroes to come to New Mexico. We need to make sure that we give back, because many of them have given the ultimate sacrifice. Many of them have given up so much for our freedoms, and we have to invite them to come here so that they start a small business, so that they can make sure to give back to the economy in a way that now that they have given all that they can in the military, that they now can start to invest in their own families and start businesses right here in our great state. But I'm going to talk to you just very quickly about what's going to happen at the Roundhouse. I mean, the talk has already taken place about give money back to, give it to the same people that you've given it to before. We're going to get different results, I'm sure. Just because we've tried it half a dozen times doesn't mean it's not going to work again. We need you. We need you. And even if you're not there, they need to hear your voices. Even if you pick up the telephone and call, there's someone who does answer the telephone at each of your legislators' offices. And don't just call yours, because yours may be a great one. And that legislator may be great, and you don't have to call them 10,000 times. But those that are not in support of the tax reform, those that are not in support of education reform, those that are not in support of keeping taxes low, but want to rate a permanent fund, or want to make sure to tax people more, those are the ones you need to call, whether they live in your district or not. Leave a message, send an email,